So several people asked me how to put archaeological digital elevation data into Roblox, which I can tell you is quite easy. That's the good news. The beginning point to actually getting the data in there and actually adding water, which is harder than doing terrain. It took me about 4 hours to do this, and I was using videos on YouTube that weren't specific to this particular task. All right, so the first thing you need is a black and white. I mean, you can also use color, but I'm not going to go into that here because that's more complicated. You need a black and white elevation map. All right, you don't want to use a shadow map because if you use shadows, then it's coded by where the sun is, and you don't need that when you're dealing with elevation. The sun is going to be in Roblox, and that will take care of that aspect of making elevation visible. So you just need an elevation map. All right, now I produce mine in Surfer because it's much easier than using GIS applications. So that's one place you can do that. And so let's quickly do that. I'm going to use Command because I haven't done this one yet. The other thing about Command is it still has some trees on it, so I want to leave some elements of where areas can come from. It also has some modern buildings, I believe. All right, now here's the thing. You don't want to use a shadow map, moonscape map, because again, it's coded by shadows, right, not by elevations. So I'm going to use this central image here, which is a shadow map. So let's get in there and change it. All right, so right now it's hill shaded. All right, and so you don't want it hill shaded. You want it to be color only. All right. And so that is actually ended up with not much going on there. So I'm going to reset the colors there. And oops, on custom, we don't want that. We want grayscale. And you want black to be lower elevations and white to be higher elevations because that's how it's going to be coded in Roblox. All right, so I believe looks like there's some empty spaces, but that's not going to be a problem. Although maybe it will be. Well, we'll see what happens again. All right, so there we go. So that's, again, it looks fairly simple, right? But this is the image we're going to use. So now I'm going to export this. And I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but I simply, in Surfer, you would just go to Export. And then you tell where to put it. And I'm just simply going to put it in a folder. I don't think you can see this. A folder called Ashkelon. And Roblox. All right, I'm going to save this as a JPEG. You can use various formats. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use a PNG instead. No, let's just check. Why not? All right, maybe it'll make a mistake. We'll see. All right, so then you just save it. As far as the resolution, you don't want to get crazy. Of course, the temptation is to put it in like 500 pixels per inch, or maybe 1,000. But just I'm going to use 150 here. All right, there you go. Actually, no, a little bit more because this is a smaller image than what I've used. I'm going to put 300. Okay. And then say OK, and it's exporting. There you go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to show this part, but I'm going to go into Photoshop, and I'm going to take that image and cut it so that only that central picture, the central image of Pashkaman, the black and white one, will be visible. All right, so I lied. I'm going to show you this image anyway. So what I'm going to do here, again, all I need is the central image, and I do not need. Roblox is not going to use the same coordinate system when you first put it in there. Or at least I haven't figured that out yet. That's one of my next things to do, actually. If you figure it out, maybe you can make a video and send it to me. I would appreciate it. All right, so essentially I've cut everything out. Let's make sure that everything is gone there. Looks like everything is gone. And again, maybe this, when you look at this, probably doesn't look like Ashkaman. I'm going to cut a little bit of this out just to make it smaller because we don't want to have actually cut it all the way down to here so that we don't have a lot of white space. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this white space into black space. Okay, so I'm going to use the selection tool to Actually get the white. Oops. Select on the white, turn it into black. And again, I don't know if this is necessary, but this is what I did last time, so, and it worked. Actually, the last time the absolute black was pure black was changed into nothingness. Okay, so there we have it. We've got a elevation, an image shaded by elevation, and then the parts outside of that are categorized as black. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a little bit more because I don't want to have all this empty stuff here. More? No, I think that's fine. All right, so let's save this as, can't see what I'm doing here, but I found that the best way to do this is to save it as a PNG file. It's the easiest. Now again, you can use a color-coded map as opposed to grayscale. A bit more complicated, but it's something you can look up a video on YouTube and find out how to do it very quickly. All right, so I'm saving it as a PNG file. Okay, so now we have that. Now let's go to Roblox. Now remember, actually, before you did any of this, you needed to have downloaded Roblox Studio, and you can probably do it on your cell phone. I have it on PC and also on my iPad, so that it works in various on various sorts of computers. So download that, then open it up, and that's where we're going to be next. Okay, so I'm in my account, and I've started a new image, and I've loaded it as flat terrain. You're gonna have to classify what you want it to look like. I simply like this one because it's less intimidating than the others. I think it doesn't really matter because your image is going to be above anything that you begin with. All right, next thing we need to do is import our file. So you go to Editor, right? And then you go to import. Don't go to generate because that creates a random landscape. So you go to import, and then you go and find the file that we just created in Surfer and modified in Photoshop. So you just simply click on this box, and you're not going to see what I'm doing here. It's basically giving me a box, asking me to select the file. You find it in whatever folder you put it in, and I now selecting it, saying open. There it is, right? It appears there so that you can use it. So the next thing you need to do, there are various things that you can modify here, but you want to tell it what sort of terrain it's going to be. You can make it grass. You can make it, I believe this is just soil. Doesn't say. You can make it ice. We may try that later. You can make it in bricks, whatever you want to make it as. Glacier, whatever. You can even make it in water. All right, so let's take ground, just simply because it's going to look different than the one that you've already seen the one that I've made of Nishtin Cheech. All right, so and then once you've selected the material it's going to be made of, you just press generate. And then it's going to generate. Now, one problem that you may run into initially is that you'll be underground. So you need to mess around with the controls. Basically, it depends on the mouse you have, so I can't really give you much advice on that. I'm just using a little trackpad here. I've got to get above the ground. All right, here it is. All right, see how easy that took what? And there's some these raised areas on the edge. These are pieces of white that obviously I didn't get out with in Photoshop. That's why they're standing up like that. I'm not going to worry about that right now, though. All right, so let's get above this and just make sure that it looks proper. Actually, one thing that's going on is there's too much mist, and so I'm going to take some of that out once I move this. Oops. So we go to lighting, atmosphere, and density. Let's lower that down just a bit. Well, yeah, let's make it so we can see what's going on here. Okay. And again, you got to mess around with the tray. Yeah, see, this is Posh. Come on, let's go. Let's go over to the. You notice that okay, there's a big hole right there. Let's check that out. I wonder what that is. That doesn't look right. I guess it is, but it seems like an error. All right, see, you can see right there. This is the E group at Poshkamon. Let's go over there. Now you notice you'll see these little the little lines in there. As you approach them, they'll tend to smooth out. Not always, though. It depends on how the map was made. This particular map, this image was made. Here it is. You can see how it's smoothing out as we go over it. But those are simply it's just the rendering. It's probably my internet connection slowing it down a little bit. Even though New York's supposed to have a good internet speed, it doesn't always. Anyway, you can see the E group there. This is from Poshkamon. This image was created with drone data. And again, this is the looks like sometimes the Z values are exaggerated. Actually, they're always exaggerated. And you can mess with them. I'm not going to go into that here, but you can actually, or maybe I will in a second. Too tempting to do that. Let's do that just really quickly. Mess with those. Now okay, X, Y, Z, right? For some reason, in Roblox, Z is not Z. Z is Y. All right. Why is that? I don't know. It's not something I'm going to concern myself with. So if you want to change the value there, what you need to do is simply, if you want to change the exaggeration, which this is slightly exaggerated, let's change this to 300. Let's see what happens. Oops. Actually, we're going to have to regenerate the image. Yeah, see, so it lessened that exaggeration a little bit. All right, actually, the whole landscape changed. But what if we make this into grass so it looks like what the landscape actually looks like? Let's do that. It's covered with grass, just like the one. And you notice again when you look at it from a distance, you're going to see these little lines. Again, that's the fault of rendering. When you're actually walking across it as a player, which I'm going to try right now. Let's go ahead and I'm going to tell it to play here because you need to create a spot where you spawn. Otherwise, you'll spawn above from beneath the ground. All right, so that's another thing. You're going to have to figure that out. Look at the video on that. But I'm going to say play here. It's going to quickly turn me into a little Lego character, whatever those things are, and I'll land there at. Now you can change the size of the image too. Right, so here again we're on the E group. Come on, looking out over. Actually, it was the other direction. Well, there it is. This is the big sinkhole. It just hasn't finished. Again, it's a little bit slow, it seems. And again, those little things sticking up there, those are pieces of the original white background that I failed to erase. Notice that everything that I categorized as pure black is gone. And so if we walked over there, it's going to take a while to walk over there. If we walk over there, you're going to see the edge of this little world here. Now, if you jump off, you fall into limbo for a little while, then the character explodes and goes back to the beginning point, which in this case would be the real beginning point of this is underground. And that's something you have to fix by changing the spawn point. And I believe in the one that I created for Niche Tune Cheech, I made invisible, so you won't see it there. So, whoops, so I'm good to go. So again, this is the part of the map that I categorized as black. And you notice that it goes into nothingness, which is what I classified it as. Right? And then below that, yeah, there's nothing. You can put whatever you want below that. I mean, you can put water under there, you can put lava, you can put all kinds of stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at this landscape one more time. Actually, let's get out first. Stop. Let's classify it as like water. Why not? Do anything. Okay, so that's water. Pashkaman turned into, and again, you can still see those problematic rendering lines. That also happens with printers sometimes. They'll within, when it's printing out like a contour map, you'll see little squares in there. All right, so that's what, again, it's turned into water. If it then does behave like water, you can change the characteristic. It looks like a little bit blocky here too. Let's try something else here. But the water goes, I mean, the buildings are made of water too. Why would you want to do this? I don't know, we're just looking at options here. All right, so let's stop that. Let's make it into, let's see in cobblestones, why not? Yeah, that's not so pretty, but anyway, let's take a look at that little character. So you could use this for, and again, within a particular space, actually, this is one thing I need to show you. I could take this classification. For example, if you had water within one of these little sinkholes, which we do at Nishtu and Cheech, and they do in these too, but these are actually modern waters that are created for cattle. Not the larger sink, that's ancient. But I could go in here and I could go to edit, and I could go to replace, and I could then, I'm going to use the brush here, and I'm going to replace the soil with water. All right, so then I can just go in there. Oops, looks like I reversed those. And replace the soil. Oh, we made it cobblestone, right? That's the problem. You gotta make sure you have the right one, because if you don't, it will not work. So let's take the cobblestones and replace them with water. So that's what is happening there. Now the thing is, once it gets above the grass, it's not going to do anything. All right, so it's replacing those. Now another thing you do is you could add, and so instead of replacing, you just simply put some water in there. And so I'm going to add, that's a glacier. Glacier in there. Actually, let's get rid of this first. Put some water in here. Now it's, yeah, we're not directly above it, so it's kind of problematic. And you have to, you notice this kind of bumpy, and you've got to play around with this. I can't show you how to do this, but you can smooth it. You can do all kinds of things. Actually, you can build this up any way you want. Like a water monster. Who knows what you can do with it? All right. So again, you can put water into sinks and so on. You can also what I did, you can change the sea level, which is how I created the water for Nishtu and Cheech. I'm not going to do that here because there's not something you need to play around with. That's probably, it's harder than making the terrain, so I'm not going to go into that here. All right, but anyway, it's right here. You press sea level, and you can create, you have to raise it so that it's at the elevation that you need it for your, because it's not going to be categorized. All right, so that's how you do it. It's very simple. At this point, what you do is you go to File, and then you can publish it to Roblox. I may publish this one on there later. I might want to look at some of these sinkholes, but you just publish to Roblox. It creates something that other people can access on your page. All right, well, that's it. Very simple. You can make, you can make, and the reason I'm creating this video is because I want other people to do this. I want to be able to walk around on other people's site maps. And you can do all kinds of stuff. We're going to have a little museum at the site where we're going to have some three-dimensional models of artifacts there. Um, I'm not going to gamify it, though some other people on the project may do that, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to do that. Um, but we will have various ways, and we're still working with flying. You can use the jetpack to get above the site. But it also has helicopters and airplanes, though I've had some trouble using those. There's a boat you can go out and see the site from the lake. Um, so there are all kinds of little things you can do. And it's what I've done is just scratching the surface. There's just so many tools in this application.